Hey friends, thank you for clicking onto this video and hanging out with me. I think it's a good one. I think we're gonna have fun today. So if you're new here, hello, my name is Mia. I make videos about DIYs, plants, not that much else. I live a very varied lifestyle, as you can tell. And if you've been here before, thank you for clicking. It's nice to see you again. I always appreciate it. Okay, so let me not ramble too much. What we're doing today, I'm just gonna show you some easy and really Bro, can I go a sentence without swearing? YouTube algorithm, I'm trying, okay? Can you appreciate the effort? Back to the point, I always seem to lose it. So what we're doing is just going to be showing you some fun ways to display plants around your home, and because it's me, a lot of them are going to be crafty as well. There are two versions of this video. One of them is the short version and it's just like inspiration, cute things, woo woo, and the long version is inspiration, cute things, and then a tutorial on how to make it in one handy place. So check down below for which version you're in. I'm not making a different intro to both of them. Anyways, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, like, subscribe, drop a comment, all that wonderful stuff, and let's get into it. Our first idea is to display hanging plants in thrifted bird cages. I love how vintage and cottagey this looks. Plus, I picked up this bird cage at a street festival when those were still a thing. Sometimes I look at it and remember what freedom tasted like. Moving on. Idea 2 is a personal favourite of mine. You take cuttings of plants, pop them into water and have them on display. If you have any fancy alcohol bottles, this is a great way to repurpose them. Look at this chaos. The cabinet I chose as a base is the IKEA Rudster cabinet. It's got 3 glass faces and the backing is magnetic, plus it's slightly cheaper than the other popular hackable cabinets like Millsbo. Personally, I actually also like the design of this one more. I think it's quite minimal, but it's really cute, and having the magnetic backing panel is a really handy feature for additional storage and whatnot. As you can see from the photo, the Rudster comes in a matte black, but as it was going in my office, I decided it naturally had to be gold. So firstly, I just set to spray painting the frame in a gold colour I liked. If you also want to do this, which I recommend, it does look super cute and it's not that difficult. The door panels do come pre-assembled, so you won't be able to just remove the glass from the frame. Just use masking tape to completely cover all of the glass surface before spray painting though, and you will be fine. Hey friends, quick tip for not wasting your time basically. The 2 door panels are really easy to figure out which side you want to mark off because they have handles. However, the side panels look pretty much exactly the same, so it's really hard to figure out, you know, which side is worth spray painting and which side is going to be on the inside. So that you don't have to do both if you're lazy like me and you don't want to, if you look in step 9, the side that's on show is the side that's furthest away from those little like nubbin bits. So basically make sure that these are facing the floor and then spray paint the other side. Hey Boris! Oh yes! Once everything had dried, I totally just got my boyfriend to assemble it. For part 2, we'll go through the features and accessories of the cabinet that make it a good home for plant babies. So there are 2 main mods that we made to the overall structure of the cabinet. Firstly, we left the bottom half of the 2 back panels loose so that we could slide cables out the back of them. And secondly, we drilled 2 holes in the top and used cable tied to secure a mini fan to them. It's a good idea to have a fan in your cabinet to increase airflow. It prevents fungal infections and diseases. I actually need to get another one for the bottom tier of this greenhouse. Personally, I only kept one of the shelves in so that my larger plants would have room to grow at the bottom. My top shelf is mainly for baby plants and propagating, Both the shelf and the actual base have a soil heating mat. These are designed for plants, so they're waterproof and safe to use. They basically increase the temperature by 5 to 10 degrees Celsius without causing heat stress. This has been a life changer for my plants. Like I mentioned before, our house is really, really cold, so anything to boost the temperature and make sure that my plants don't go into dormancy is a massive help. Naturally, I also have grow lights running across the top of the cabinet and the bottom of the shelf. I actually bought these just off eBay, and surprisingly, I really, really like them. They pretty much come as a roll of tape with LEDs inside. I previously used them on my marble plant shelf, then just peeled them off and restuck them in here. Actually, self-promo time. If your house doesn't have the ambient temperature of the North Pole and you would like another super cute plant display, you should definitely check out my DIY IKEA plant stand hack. It's super, super cute. Anyways, back to grow lights though. So, I did mention that the back panels of the cabinet are magnetic. This is a really handy feature if you run out of space like me, because you can just pop in some magnetic spice shelves and voila, more space. I also used cable ties to secure some grow lights under my spice shelf, so the plants below it are still getting some light too. Other than that, the main thing I recommend is having a thermometer that calculates humidity and the temperature within your cabinet. This is just so that you can monitor conditions and make adjustments if necessary. The only reason that I don't have one at the moment is because the one that I had broke, so just waiting on a new one to be delivered. First step was to pick up some cute frames from the thrift store and plastic gutter guard from the hardware store. This is super cheap, by the way. The gutter guard was like $4. So I removed the backing of the photo frame and the glass and everything. Once it was literally just the frame, I measured out a piece of the gutter guard to fit, then snipped it and spray painted it gold. Now, look, if you have a staple gun, you can just staple the mesh to the frame. I didn't, so I just hot glued it in and it's fine. But yeah, that's literally it. You can mount this on your wall and clip any plants you like to it. It's really cute, it's really functional. So the normal command strips are just a basic adhesive strip, but the photo frame ones actually join and separate. So this means you can basically stick the test tubes up to the wall, but pull them off when you need to change the water. It's all very efficient. So the first step is to take your normal command strip and stick it to the base of your cork. Make sure to leave the wall side of this strip covered and hold the adhesive down for a minute or two just to help it stick properly. Next, join two of your picture frame command strips and cut them down to a size that will fit both the top of the cork and the side of a test tube. Separate these strips and then stick one to the cork and one to the side of the test tube. Again, make sure you press the strips for around a minute. Rinse and repeat this step for as many test tubes as you want to display. Take your cork and use the remaining command strip to press it into the wall. Hold it for a few minutes and then just leave it to set properly for at least an hour and a half. After that point, you can fill your test tube up with water, take a plant cutting and stick it back on the wall. Easy as. to see on the page here. And once you got that, just take everything out of the box and spray paint it gold. You don't really need to worry about the top parts that are going to be covered with resin. I honestly just went around the edges to make sure that that was all done opaquely, but the very top part, you don't really need to worry about it. The resin will be opaque and it will cover it. Okay, the next part could probably use some explaining. What we're going to be doing next is pouring resin onto the shelving panels to give them that faux marble look. We're going to be using something called the dirty pour method, which is not as exciting as it sounds, to be honest, but it does make for some beautiful results. What you need for a successful dirty pour: acrylic paints in the colours of your choice. I used a dark green and cream, plastic cups, spray paint in both gold and white, a resin kit. Oh, and this wasn't pictured, but I did also use some gold alcohol ink. And what you need to do. So for prep, pop 4 cups underneath your shelf panel so they're elevated from the floor. In the video, you can see that I taped the sides of each shelf. Honestly, don't bother with this. That's really what caused the drips on my shelving unit. Letting the resin run down the sides evenly is fine and will honestly look neater. I was testing the idea. It didn't work. Don't be me. After you're all set up, mix up 2 plastic cups worth of resin according to your kit specifications. Mine was an equal parts ratio. Basic resin safety tips here, guys. Wear gloves and if possible, mix it outside and wear a mask. Resin fumes are bad for the lungs. Now, once you've got some of the good stuff mixed up, scoop a small amount of acrylic paint into each cup, 1 cup having green and 1 cup having cream. The ideal ratio for this is 1 part paint to 10 parts resin, according to the internet anyway, but I just eyeball it. Less is definitely more here though, as too much paint will leave you with paint clumps. Now, this is where the dirty pour technique comes into play. What we need to do is add contrasting colour into your resin mix, but we need to make sure that the colour stays separate. The way we achieve this is that we use a different medium that won't immediately blend in. It's kind of like adding oil to water. So spray paint and alcohol ink will fit this build perfectly. After trying this a few times, the method that I found worked best for me was actually just like spraying white and gold paint directly into my resin mix. At first, you can kind of see on camera, I was spraying into a cup and then pouring it in. Honestly, that was just a waste of time. So once you've got a good amount of white and gold, swirl the mix together, and be careful here guys, because we want to swirl the colours so that they're evenly represented throughout the mix, so that when you pour it, you're not going to dump all of your gold in at first, but we really don't want to combine the colours. And then all you need to do is pour the mixes onto your shelving. For a natural marble-like flow, I poured in a fluid, kind of wavy line across each shelf, and then I went in with the opposite resin color next to it. As you can see, as the resin levels, all of the colors spread out in a really natural but stunning way. It's very easy and intuitive. Honestly, it's pretty much impossible to go wrong with. So once you've got a finish that you like, just leave it to dry for 12 to 24 hours. Rinse and repeat that for your 3 shelving panels, and once everything has cured and is dry to the touch, assemble the rest of your clothing rail. Woo! Okay guys, we're ready to do the base. So I've actually kept this one inside just because the temperature outside it's not as toasty as it was yesterday. I don't want loads of bubbles in my resin. If you guys are worried, this is completely dry. If you've used resin before, you know it. Like, I'll see if I can peel some up for you. I peeled most of it off already, but it literally is like a tacky plasticky finish. So this is totally dry, don't worry about it. I'm not expecting it to drip at all. The only reason that I've got so much covering is because I really don't want it to. But yeah, there's, you know, a little bit of a gap between there. So even though the bottom is pretty secure, it potentially could have a couple of spills, which is why I've made sure to have a ton of protection on the floor. Anyways, you guys already know the method, you already know all about the dirty pour, so I'm just gonna let you watch this without chatting too much shit. It's a rarity, but the day is here. And that's the finished project. I really hope you guys enjoyed this idea. It's so easy to recreate if you are inspired to give it a try yourself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's it. Have a good day, guys. So for project number 1, I want to show you a really easy way to upcycle some old bric-a-brac from the thrift store. I found this super cute, I don't really know what it is, weird bucket thing from a thrift store, and initially I was planning to make a candle out of it, kind of like the one I made a few videos back. I'll link that now if you want to check it out. But that twisty handle, man, I just thought it would be really cute to grow a plant up it. So I specifically chose Senecio variegated, also known as like wax ivy, because they're technically a succulent, so they don't need too much water, which is really good with funky planters that don't have drainage, because too much water equals root rot, so you want plants that don't need watering too often. My first step was to use some broken crockery at the base of my, I'm just going to call it an urn. So this is just to give a little drainage space for the soil. You can use rocks for this. I just tried to upcycle things and I had a broken plant pot that I wanted to use. After that, I very gracelessly pulled my ivory from its loving home and repotted it into my urn. Then I gave it a very, very light water to help everything settle. I trailed some of the longer stems around the handle and voila, finished. One is to pop down to the thrift store and find a nice big photo frame and spray paint your trellis gold. I use this Dulux paint. Hey, so something I just realized is I didn't actually measure out my trellis versus the photo frame. I found out yesterday by pure luck that it fits actually perfectly, but maybe don't rely on luck. Either buy your trellis first or your photo frame first and just either one measure and find something else to fit. I reckon you'd probably want to get the trellis first, even if you just look it up online and find the measurements, and then pick your photo frame accordingly. Our next step is to attach the trellis to the frame. This is a little bit tricky to advise you on just because thrift store finds are usually unique. So with mine, there was a bunch of staples all around the outside. The corners were boarded up and would not come off. So I ended up hot gluing the trellis onto the corners and then literally using string to tie it to the staples and used hot glue to secure the whole thing. Obviously, your photo frame probably won't have any of those things, so find something that works for you. I reckon hot glue would do the trick though. Hey guys, editing Mia here. So I'm just going to explain quickly the next part of this process and why it's so important. What we're going to be creating is a drainage system. So what this means is that when we water our plants, rather than the water sitting at the bottom of the pot and rotting the roots, which causes root rot, which causes your plants to die, we're going to create like a drainage system so that the water can flow through the plant pots and into a dish underneath, and we can do all of that without actually removing the plants from the trellis. See? Drainage. For our next step, we need 2 mini wire mesh shelves. I got mine from Kmart for about $5, and then I just sprayed it with that same gold that I used for the trellis. If your pots haven't already got drainage holes, drill 4 into the base of each one. We're going to do a Ross from Friends and we are going to pivot. So I actually measured out the weird leaning shelf extension and it is the perfect height for this plant pot, which is the perfect height for this plant. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to kind of combat the drainage issue a little bit with this bad boy without him being on a shelf, which I also think will be nice because then we're going to get a sense of kind of like different heights and all of the plants won't be starting from a level up because that might actually look a little bit weird. What we're going to do, we're going to add some stones into the bottom of our plant pot. This is a decorative pot, so it doesn't have drainage at the bottom, but it is a significant amount bigger than this one. With the layer of stones at the bottom, it just means that when I water this bad boy, rather than the water pooling at the bottom and the roots sitting in it and rotting, it's going to filter through these stones. So I'm probably just going to be a little bit more mindful when I water him, maybe to do it in small bursts rather than just pouring a jug of water once a week on, but that's okay. We'll monitor it for a little while just to make sure that he doesn't die, and if that doesn't work, I'll readjust. But I've got quite a few plants that have rocks at the bottom that have been doing really well, so we'll see. And here's our finished project. biscuit! Daryl Foster risking his life for the biscuit.
I don't even want to like lose weight to live long or be healthy. I don't. I just want to be in like the middle.
Yeah. Our first craft is one of the simplest things I think I've ever made. All you need are some really cheap artist mannequins. I got mine for like $5 a pop from Kmart. Remove them from their stand and just spray paint them a matte black. You want to get as much covered as you can. This is why I like the spray paint. It just makes it that little bit easier. Now, in terms of tips, what I actually did was positioned my mannequins to how they'd actually be holding the air plant. And then I went in and manually filled in any gaps I found with another matte black acrylic paint. I did taste test, what am I on about? I did patch test these two paints together in advance just to check that this wouldn't leave any like unsightly, weird, different shades, but they did match really perfectly, so it just meant that every part of the mannequin that was exposed was definitely covered, and I highly recommend this. Once everything's dry, just pop your air plant into place and that's this done. They're really easy to take care of. You just spray them with water once a week and Bob's your uncle.
Simply because you're near me, honey, but when you're near me, I'm in the mood for love.
The first thing you need for these are some propagated succulent cuttings. I'm not going to include a tutorial on how to do this in this video just because that would make it really lengthy, but it's super easy. They usually root or sprout new heads within a couple of weeks, which means you've got loads and loads of time for it. And if you don't have existing succulents around the house, you can actually buy succulent cuttings off places like Etsy, and they are really cheap. We're gonna tackle our wine cork planter first because I didn't film the other one and I'm procrastinating editing whatever the fuck that mess is gonna look like. So for our wine cork planters, all you need is just, you guessed it, an old cork, a sharp knife, and if you want, some cold acrylic paint. Our first step is to use that sharp knife to hollow out your wine cork. This is really easy, if a little bit labor intensive. Once you've got a decent sized hole, just add a little bit of soil into the bottom and then place your cutting into that hole, add some more soil to the top to secure it, and then just drop a little bit of water to help everything settle into place. And an optional last step is to paint around the base of the cork with a layer of gold acrylic paint. I think this looks really nice and subtle against the kind of like wooden tones of the cork, but it does add a really luxurious finish, and again, it just makes it look a little bit nicer than just a recycled old wine cork. Now, if you're a skincare junkie like me, you've probably happened across The Ordinary. They do all these amazing serums that come in these really cute little bottles. But what do you do with them once they've run out? So this next planter is actually an upcycle of an old retinol bottle that I had. By the way, their retinol products are amazing. Highly recommend. So remove the label, make sure to wash the inside really, really thoroughly just so that there aren't any residual chemicals left. And then it's pretty much the same as our wine cork planter. Just fill up to pretty much the top with soil. Pop in your succulent cutting, add a little more soil around just to secure it in place, and then add a little bit of water just to help everything settle in.